The Joe Rogan Experience.
When I was stationed at Portland Air National Guard, my job there was an airfield manager, so I would interface and work a lot with the F-15 pilots at the unit. And so there had been an airspace incursion that had taken place when I was still at the time at the Guard. And I remember kind of talking to some of the pilots about it, and I was like, what was that? And they're like, we can't really talk about it. No one really wanted to address it. And so from what I had gathered, that had been likely a UAP. And so that kind of was my perspective. Granted, I also grew up in the generation of the X-Files and, I don't know if you remember 94 Independence Day. So, like, for me specifically, I didn't look at it with, like, a crazy lens and perspective. I'm like, you never know if we're the only ones out there, essentially.
It all began quietly.
Why did you assume
as a young officer stationed with the Portland Air National Guard, Anna Paulina Luna worked side by side with F-15 pilots. But one day, whispers surfaced of a mysterious incursion in restricted airspace. Pilots, professionals who spend their lives tracking threats in the skies, suddenly refused to speak. Their silence wasn't casual. It carried weight, fear. A fear of losing flight status, of losing careers. Luna pressed them, asking what they saw. The answer was evasive but unmistakable, something we couldn't identify. For Luna, raised in the era of the X-Files and Independence Day, this was more than a strange story. It was a moment that suggested humanity might not be alone in the universe. Now with our investigation
and the task force that I run, actually the reason why the task force was formed was because of an event that happened at Eglin Air Force Base where both myself, Representative Matt Gaetz, and Representative Tim Burchett actually had responded and gone to investigate multiple Air Force pilots that had come forward in regards to UAP incidences that had occurred, and they were alleging that the Air Force was covering it up.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was that. And like, I'm happy to go into detail on that one. But what I will tell you is the stuff that I saw at Eglin, how the military responded, me being, a former service member, and then ultimately what I saw with the pushback of the military not even wanting to share with Congress information, which is a big problem because when you have Congress that's supposed to be the advocate and voice for the American people, the oversight body, and you're being denied access, not just from a base commander, but high level
Years
up
later,
at the Pentagon.
That mystery resurfaced on a far larger stage. As a U.S. Congresswoman, Luna co-founded a task force to investigate unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, the trigger, an alarming incident at Eglin Air Force Base. Multiple pilots came forward, alleging not only sightings but an active cover-up by the Air Force itself. Luna, alongside Representatives Matt Gaetz and Tim Burchett, traveled to investigate. What they encountered was resistance, stonewalling, and denial not just from base commanders, but from the highest levels of the Pentagon. For a sitting member of Congress, sworn to protect transparency and oversight, this wasn't just suspicious, it was terrifying. Because if the Pentagon could deny elected officials access to information, then who, exactly, is really in charge of the truth?
I can also tell you, and this might sound crazy, but based on our investigations and stuff that we've seen, okay, there is definitely something that I think would rival what we know currently with physics and a tech that potentially is out there that we don't have the ability to reproduce, because it would basically be like dropping a cell phone right off back during the time of maybe caveman. So like we just don't have the tech to develop it yet. What I can also tell you is based on our interviews, and this has been something that you can go back and watch with the congressional hearings, but I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, what are these things? And they keep saying interdimensional. And then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know
From these
as
investigations,
our own dimension,
Luna claims she
that stuff
discovered
can kind
evidence of
sound
technology so advanced, it defies the known laws of physics. Objects accelerating beyond the capacity of any nation's arsenal. Craft maneuvering in ways that should rip metal apart and crush human pilots under G. The word that kept surfacing from witnesses, many of them military aviators with impeccable records, wasn't extraterrestrial. It was more unsettling, interdimensional. What if these phenomena don't come from another planet, but from another plane of existence entirely, a realm parallel to our own, slipping in and out of our skies? The implication was staggering. Humanity might not just be facing visitors from afar, but entities from realities we barely understand.
Look,
unfortunately.
Yeah. Look, have I seen a portal open? No. Have I seen a spaceship? Personally, no. Have I seen evidence of this? Yes. Have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? Yes. Is there historical significance to this? Yes. Is there multiple events that go back to, I would argue, maybe even before the time of Christ that have documented this in text? Yes. So do I believe that the government has access to certain technology? Yes, to an extent. And I believe that certain contractors potentially have back-engineered this tech. I think that that's what can
Skeptics
explain the
demand
advancements
proof.
that.
Luna is careful with her words. She admits she hasn't personally witnessed a glowing portal or a landed craft. But inside highly classified government facilities known as SCIFs, she claims to have reviewed photographic evidence images of aircraft she insists could not have been made by human hands. Even more chilling, she ties these anomalies to historical records dating back thousands of years. Ancient texts, pre-Christian accounts that may have described the very same things now appearing in classified Pentagon files. To Luna, the connection is undeniable. Humanity has been encountering these phenomena for millennia. Only now, the evidence is mounting faster than it can be buried.
But we were denied access and told that we don't have security clearance or the read-in authority on a special access program. That's a problem because I'm supposed to represent and be an investigative body, and you have then people who are unelected that are operating basically in secrecy, and that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And yet, even with elected authority, Luna says she's been blocked at every turn. Along with 2 other members of Congress, she attempted to review testimony and evidence from whistleblowers at Eglin, but access was denied. The reason? They didn't hold the proper clearance for a special access program. That denial carried a deeper message, information of profound importance, potentially redefining humanity's place in the universes being guarded by unelected officials, outside the reach of democracy itself. To Luna, it wasn't just a bureaucratic roadblock. It was proof of a shadow structure operating beyond accountability.
I have seen photos. I have seen...
What have you seen photos of?
So I was in a skiff, and I can't discuss all that was in a skiff, but what I can tell you is based on the photos that I've seen, I'm very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by
Despite the secrecy, Luna remains resolute. She insists that what she's seen leaves little room for doubt. Photographs of crafts so advanced, so alien in design, that she is very confident they were not created by mankind. To her, this isn't science fiction. It's a suppressed reality, one that could change everything we know about technology, warfare, and the human story
itself. The U.S. government
itself.
has not exactly been clean, and a lot of what they've done with the American people, specifically to the topic of UFOs.
Which makes you think that it's probably because there's something there. If you think about the motivation they had with Project Blue Book, when J. Allen Hynek was running Project Blue Book, this specific intention was to discredit all stories.
And he ended up ultimately, though, after all of his investigations, becoming someone that was like, I think there's something here. But that's true. By the way, a lot of people might not necessarily go onto Google and look up that information, but you can actually look up the declassified reports from Project
If this
Blue
sounds
Book.
like conspiracy, Luna points to history. In the 1950s and 60s, the U.S. government ran Project Blue Book, an official study of UFOs, but its true purpose wasn't discovery, it was discrediting. Every sighting was to be explained away, labeled as weather balloons, swamp gas, or the imaginations of unstable minds. But here's the twist. J. Allen Hynek, the very scientist hired to debunk the phenomenon, eventually reversed course. After years of investigation, he became convinced something extraordinary was indeed in the skies. A government insider turned believer. For Luna, it's proof that suppression and secrecy aren't new. They are part of a decades-long pattern.
I think that part of the fear is that you have advisors that think that, the American people or humanity might not be able to handle it. There's this protective complex, but then also too, I think when you are talking about these things, for a lot of people, I think that it kind of can rock your world a little bit in regards to where you stand in a faith perspective, and then also too, an aspect of, well, how do you even begin to explain it? And all I'm going to say is, look, and we can go into some of the books that were removed from what we know as the modern day Bible, but I read through the book of Enoch multiple times. And I'm not saying that these things are angels. Okay, that's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that depending on where you are in regards to your whole perspective on whether or not God exists, like I believe in God, I'm a Christian. There has to have been, and there's admissions that there was other creations that God made, but that we were the most prized creation. And so I think that this can open up a bigger topic
Why
of
hide
discussion.
the truth? According to Luna, secrecy stems from fear that humanity isn't ready, that revealing these truths could shake the foundations of religion, science, and government authority itself. She points to the Book of Enoch, an ancient text once considered part of Scripture but later removed. In its verses, otherworldly beings are described, entities that interact with mankind but are not of it. For Luna, the parallels are chilling. If such beings exist, what does that say about creation? About God? about humanity's role in the universe. As a Christian, she admits the questions are difficult, but she insists that hiding the answers is far more dangerous than confronting them. Across classified bases, whispered testimonies, and ancient texts, Representative Anna Paulina Luna draws a picture of a reality far stranger than we've been told. Craft that outpace fighter jets, technology that breaks the laws of physics, beings that may not come from another planet, but from dimensions beyond our own. If her claims are true, then humanity stands at the edge of a revelation that could rewrite history, science, and faith itself. The bigger question now, will the truth ever be revealed to the people, or will it remain locked away in secrecy, hidden by those who believe we are not ready to know?